Welcome to the Frugal Frau. I'm Sukey, your host. And today I'm going to show you how to paint pine cones. And in my situation, I have painted them on furniture, but of course you could put these on anything. You can put them on paper, on a canvas, whatever. I have 3 different ways that I will demonstrate how to paint these in the video. So please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you have suggestions for future videos, please put those in the comment area too. Thank you so much for watching. First, I started with my original drawing, which I just did quickly in pencil and shaded it, and I only just blacked it out real sloppily in marker so that the pine cones would stand out. And then I made copies of just the outline of this, and for the video I have enlarged it. Now, what I want to say is that there are numerous ways to approach painting this. In this case, I used colored pencil, and I actually did it in a series of stripes, which I did not do in straight lines at all, but rather I did it so that they would sort of blend together. And that approach would work really well also in thread. So if you are a person who likes to do embroidery, that is pretty much how you would do this and shade it to get the 3-dimensional look and separate the little pieces of the pine cone. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in paint. All right, I don't know if you can see this very clearly on the video, but I'll try to come in close when I edit the video. Now, I used 4 basic colors. I used a very dark chocolatey brown, I used a reddish brown, and I used an ochre color. And then here I didn't really use a color, I just let the white of the paper show through. But if I was painting this on a dark background, I would have to use white paint. Or if I was embroidering on dark fabric, I would also have to use white thread. So it doesn't really matter how you start. I like to start at the top just so I don't accidentally smear, and I just do a few at a time. And I'm just doing the darks to kind of establish the edge of the little piece of the pine cone that's above. The seeds, of course, in this picture have already dropped out. And this is typically how you find these white pine cones on the ground. The seeds have already fallen out. And I'm not being very exact or very careful, and I think that lends a slightly painterly look to it to do it that way. So I'm not going to do the whole thing because that would bore you to tears. And now I'm simply going to use my next color, which is a reddish brown, and I don't have a reddish brown in this particular liquid acrylics that I'm using, so I'm just going to mix one up real quick on my palette, and then I'll have one. All right. So there's my reddish brown, and it could be a little bit lighter. Okay. And I'm purposely just doing little short strokes, very similar to the way I would do this if I was embroidering this, which I've actually done a lot of embroidery in my life. One of those little things I like to do. Okay, so that's a few of those. So you can see, if you're not a person who's really familiar with doing a lot of painting and shading, that this is a very simple way to do it, but yet is quite effective to get that 3-dimensional look that you might want, without it looking like striped candy corn. You know what? Probably look like that. I mean, I don't think I'd want it to look like candy corn. But if you want a real sharp edge, of course, you could paint those. So in this case, I got a little bit, I think, too much white. So I'm just going to bring that ochre color down, just like that. So you can see how simple this is. And you could finesse this as much as you want, just it's what you want to do. Now, you'll notice I'm going to put my drawing up. In my drawing, which of course is very monochromatic, you could also do it this way. And this means you would just use one color. So if you wanted to do one of those tone on tone situations, say this was dark blue, you could just do these with the same, almost the same dark blue and shade it. And it would also look very nice, kind of like you would see in toile fabric. So I'm just going to do a little bit of that. And I have some red on my palette, so I'm going to do that just to contrast that for you. And so in this case, I'm going to dilute it quite a bit and use quite a bit of water. And this is just regular paper, so it's a little bit... I have to work very quickly because it's not like watercolor paper where I would have to work, where I have a little bit of working time because it's not going to dry out and wrinkle the paper so much. But you see, I'm getting the same shaded effect by just using a very monochromatic scheme. And I think that has its place, and it's also very beautiful. So you might want to just do it that way. And of course, if you're doing this not on paper or on wood, you can go ahead and bring white paint in and mix it in and shade it a little bit differently. And actually, I'm going to do it right here because I got too dark there. Anyways, but that's just another way to approach it, which I thought would be a nice way to do it. Now, I haven't actually done that myself on any pieces of furniture, but now that I said this and demonstrated it, I think, that might be a good idea. So I might do that. Now, the other way to do this is to paint it much more detailed and painterly with a lot of shading. And I've already done that, and I will show you that in time lapse because I actually did it while laying on the floor and painting panels on a base cabinet. So with that, I will stop talking and just quickly show you that. This is the finished panel, and you can see there are two more panels on either side of this one to paint. Originally, I was going to paint them with the same design, but I later on painted over with the blue to cover up my tracing, and then I drew another pine cone and painted over that, but that's a subject for another video. Thank you so much for watching.